right, this guy is super cool, okay? Who likes the Ottawa Senators? Come on. Proud to say that this guy's a friend. He was on one of my radio programs a couple of years back, and he's just an awesome dude, okay? He is one of the Ottawa Senators' founders, which is very cool. Century 21 Explorer Realty Incorporated broker, real estate investment coach. He's a Canadian legend who founded the modern era Senators and their home arena, the Canadian Tire Centre. At a time when Canada was losing NHL teams in Quebec and Winnipeg, Bruce is known as a real estate investment coach, developer, broker, hockey executive, professor, entrepreneur, urbanist, author, business mentor, part-time model. No, it doesn't say that, but you could, man. It's a good-looking man right there. Consultant and keynote speaker for organizations and institutions with a positive focus on creating new opportunities for their stakeholder groups. His current motto is making impossible possible. Follow him on Twitter at Prof. Bruce or visit his personal website at brucemfirestone.com. Very cool, Dr. Bruce Firestone!
Thank you, Dylan. I'm not going to stand up on a stage, because one of the things I like to do is I like to be amongst the audience, amongst the people. And tonight I got permission from Jared to talk to you about something a little bit different, how to really provide for yourself and your family. And I'm a living, walking, talking, breathing example of what not to do. So whatever I tell you about tonight, right, do the opposite. Okay, most of you people are probably in business. How many of you operate your own business? Put up your hand. Almost all of you. Yeah, I thought so. So what most of you are thinking is that you're going to take care of your business so it can take care of yourself, it can take care of your family. And I understand that, I get that, I do that. So you're thinking about your business every day, you're working overtime, I understand that. But what happens if the business fails, right? What do you do then? Maybe you can rely on your Canada pension plan, right? Do you know that the average payout from the CPP last year was $550 a month? How many of you can live on $550 a month? Right, don't answer that. So maybe you're thinking that you're going to have a defined benefit pension plan, right? But 80% of Canadians, 80% of Canadians and 82% of Americans do not have a defined benefit pension plan. And most of those who do work for the government, right? And probably very few of you actually have that. So you can't really rely on that. So now the question is, how do you turn a rich dad into a poor dad? Not a poor dad into a rich dad, but a rich dad into a poor dad. Anyone want to guess? Yeah, the punchline is buy a National Hockey League team. That's what I did, right? Guaranteed. That'll work. Now, we had a very simple plan. And, you know, if you're running a business, any kind of a business, a simple plan is probably the best plan. So we had a pretty simple plan. Our plan was to buy 600 acres in Canada, which is now part of Ottawa, put an NHL expansion team and an NHL caliber arena in the middle of it, drive up the value of the land, sell off 500 acres, take that money, put it in armored trucks like this, drive them down to Park Avenue in Manhattan, give it to the National Hockey League, and get an expansion franchise for Ottawa. Pretty simple plan. And part of it worked. We did get a National Hockey League team, and this is a headline, I think, the next day in 1990. It was a pretty happy day for Ottawa. And, of course, a few years later, we built what was then called the Palladium, now called Canadian Tire Centre in Canada. Anybody know who this is? You're all too young, I think, to know who this is. Who? Bob Ray. You're too young to know. Yeah, you're 25. Somehow or other, Mr. Ray got elected Premier of the province of Ontario. And he decided that he didn't want the Senators to play in Ottawa. He preferred the team to play in Hamilton. So he decided to oppose what we were doing. He took us to a legal hearing in front of the Ontario Municipal Board that lasted 13 and a half weeks. I was on the stand for 3.5 days. If any of you ever are unlucky enough to be cross-examined for 3.5 days, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a tough 3.5 days. You know who this guy is? Young lady there. Who's this guy? Miss, who's this guy? Okay, we got to have some hockey fans here. Help her out. It's Phil Esposito, one of the great Canadian hockey players. He played on Team Canada in 1972. How old were you in 1972, right? Not born, exactly. Anyway, Phil Esposito was the guy fronting the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, came into the league at the same time as the Ottawa Senators. So they came in at the same time. In fact, the same moment. And a few weeks after Phil Esposito got his team for Tampa and we got the team for Ottawa, Phil calls me up from the state of Florida and he says, I can't tell you how excited I am, Bruce. I just got a call from the governor of the state of Florida. And I said, oh, what did he say? And he said, well, welcome to Florida. How great it is that you brought NHL hockey to the state. We're so excited to have you here. He said, Bruce, what was your reaction like in Ontario? I said, well, Phil, it was a little bit different. We got a lawsuit. Right. And you may not recognize this, but this is the Palladium Interchange. We were required by our provincial government to build that interchange. It's still, I think, to this day, the only privately funded interchange on a 400 series highway in Ontario. We had to pay for that. And the Canadian dollar went from 90 cents when we bought the hockey team. 90 cents, that's the loonie on the right, or left, whatever, you know, the big one. And it went down to 62.5 cents. And the payroll of the team went from 6.5 million Canadian dollars to 84 million in a few years. Don't try that in your own business. Because what happened then was the team went bankrupt. In 2004, 2005, the team went bankrupt, leaving me and my family with nothing. We were destitute. I have an 11-year-old Saab 9.5. That's the only thing I got out of the bankruptcy. An 11-year-old car. Nothing. So this was me the day after the team went bankrupt. And what I say to people is when bad things happen to good people, I give you 3 days. You have 3 days. First day you could be mad. The second day you could be sad or a little sulky like this little guy. But the third day you get a little bit of exercise, get up, and start over. And that's what I did. So I went back to teaching. I have a PhD. You know what PhD stands for? Piled higher and deeper. Right? I have a PhD, so I went back to teaching. This was me in Stockholm. I was teaching at Hyper Island. And I got a chance to write. I like to write, so I wrote a few books. This is a novel I wrote called Quantum Entity. It was made into a movie. And I got to write the Entrepreneur's Handbook. And I know something about real estate, so I wrote the Real Estate Handbook. And then last year I wrote Don't Back Down, the story of the founding of the NHL's Ottawa Senators, and released it for the 25th anniversary. And I had a lot of fun writing that story, I can tell you. And Bob Ray doesn't come out very well in the book, just in case you're wondering. And I went back to school. There I was. Suling, did you talk about lifetime learning? I went back to school. I was 54 years of age. I was a 54-year-old rookie. I went back to school and I had to take 8 courses and 8 exams to get my broker's license. So I went back to school and I did some keynote speaking. I like to speak and sometimes people like to listen. So if you can't rely on your business to take care of you and you don't have a defined benefit pension plan and you're not going to live on $550 a month, maybe you could do something else. Do you know who this guy is? Oh, the big hint is that this is the man standing in front of the name of the school. This is Eric Sprott. So I was teaching at Carleton University at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton. And Eric came to give the commencement speech in 2011. The worst ever commencement speech. Okay, sorry, Eric, but it was terrible. And with 350 impressionable young minds in the audience, he said, don't diversify. Now's the time to invest in gold. Okay? 350 young people going, oh, yeah? And so I went back a few years later and I checked, how is gold doing? The day that Eric said, invest in gold to all these nice young people, it was trading around $1,700 an ounce. And 3 years later, it was trading at $1,200. And maybe you're thinking I'm picking on Eric. So I went back and I looked at the 10-year performance of the Sprott Gold and Precious Minerals Fund. And you can see in 10 years, the fund was up minus 1% a year. So, to all the members of the audience, skill testing question. How long does it take to double your money at minus 1% a year? Never. Okay, you guys are really sharp. Are they serving alcohol here? Drink more. Okay? And I love this ad. This is Ally Bank. This is a major bank saying, here's our high yield interest rate, and they're proudly announcing 0.99%. So if gold isn't going to work and your CPP isn't going to work and you don't like the stock market, what are you going to do? I coach about 130 people in real estate. And I'm a real estate guy, so my answer to that question is real estate. This is Maya Yates, a young woman with 3 children. She's a single mom. And she came to see me and she said, my goal, Bruce, is to retire at some point with $80,000 a year in independent income. And I said, well, Maya, how are you going to do that? She said, well, I'm trying to save some money. I'm going to save some money. I said, okay, well, Maya, at 0.99%, how much money do you have to save to retire at $80,000 a year? She said, I don't know. I said, well, it's about $8 million. Now, how many of you, put up your hand, how many of you can save $8 million before you retire? Put up your hand. Oh, we got 2. You guys can leave now. That's it, you're done. But I can't save $8 million. Probably most of you can't either. So what I do is I have 127 people on this program right now. It's a very simple program. I believe in simplicity, okay? And that is to own your own home and buy some residential rentals, right? It's a pretty simple plan. And within 10 to 12 years, you'll have about $10,000 a month in independent income through real estate. It might take you 15 years, but it's in that range. And I know that's not all the money in the world, but it's a whole lot more than $550 a month, and it's a whole lot better than owning gold at $1,700 an ounce, and 10 years later, it's $1,200 an ounce, okay? Now, if I could go back 26 years and talk to that young Bruce Firestone when he was 38, 37, 39 years of age, what would I tell him? I wish I could go back in time, and I wanted to share this with you. What I would tell him is, Bruce, you and your wife own 28 executive travel apartments. You know, the kind of apartments that are fully furnished and the phone is there and the television's on, the cable's on. Today it would be internet and all that good stuff. We own 28 of these, 16 of them at Holland Cross. Any of you guys know where Holland Cross is? Not that far from downtown, right? We had 28 apartments, condos, townhouses, fully paid for. And what we did was we bought, this is my, I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, we bought the ground floor. See all those ground floor units? Everybody wants to be on the penthouse. But if you're running travel apartments, we wanted the ground floor because they have street access. So if you're a busy executive, you're coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can get into the unit without having to go through a big tower, right? Right from the street. And in those days, it was lock boxes. Today, it would be keypads. We had 28 of these. It was kind of Airbnb before there was Airbnb. And this is a long spreadsheet. You don't have to look at all the numbers. There will be a test later on. But the one number I wanted you guys to look at is look at this line here. The net operating income, this is 26 years ago, was just over $50,000 a month from that portfolio. Okay? If I could tell that Bruce Firestone one thing would be, put that portfolio in your wife's name, Bruce. Don't raise debt on it, and definitely don't put it into a National Hockey League franchise that's going to go broke in 2004. Because today, that would be a big help to me and to my family. And I wanted to share that story with you. This is my wife, Dawn McMillan. She and I have 5 kids. She should have divorced me in 2004, 2005, right, ladies? I mean, absolutely, she should have left me. But she's a good person. She stuck with her husband, and she said better times are ahead. But if she were here tonight, if Dawn was here tonight, what she would say to you is this kind of stark message, which I wanted to share, especially with the entrepreneurs here, which are most of you. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And what she would be saying to you is it's okay for you to develop your business and work hard. And as Su Ling said, work smart to develop that business. But if something bad happens to that business, you should have something to fall back on, something that is diversified, something that is uniquely yours that won't go away as what happened to me at the age of 54. So don't sacrifice yourself. Take care of yourself and your family as well as your business. I love this guy. This story is the Duke of Westminster in number 6. When he died last year, he was worth about 9.35 billion British pounds. And he had to make do with an income of 14,000 US dollars an hour. It works out to about $128 million a year. How did he do that? How did the Duke of Westminster do that? Well, it actually started a long time ago in the 1700s when, with 200 acres in Mayfair, 200 acres of land in downtown central London. And look what they did with it. In just 13 years, they built these incredible, extraordinary residential apartments. It's kind of that plan that I was talking about earlier at a much bigger scale. But look at the quality of that. Look at the beauty, the architecture. And of course, what is it worth today? In 13 years, they built that from 1740 to 1753. They still own it today. It's worth billions of pounds. So what I teach, and what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, was something a little bit different. I didn't want to talk about how to build your better business. I wanted to talk about how to protect yourself, how to provide for yourself and your family through real estate. And what I teach people to do, and what I coach people to do, is use the Warren Buffett methodology. We all know who Warren Buffett is, the most successful, or one of the most successful investors on the planet. And what we did was we took his methodology and we applied it to real estate. Buy smart, right? Buy low. That makes obvious sense. Use leverage, other people's money, mortgage money. Add value, animate. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then hold your properties. If you come to me and say, Bruce, I want to learn how to buy and flip, you're coming to the wrong person, because I'm in the buy and hold business. And then as the value goes up, refinance your properties, take that money out tax-free. This is what Warren Buffett's been doing since he came back from the Korean War. And buy more. It's the only perpetual motion machine I know of that exists in the world today. And then the last point I added down at the bottom, be like the Duke of Westminster. Pass it on to your children. I have 5 great kids. Does it work? This is one of my daughters, and you can see she takes after my wife, not me. Lucky girl, right? This is Mimi. And if I'm telling you this is what I believe in, and certainly lots of other people that I talk to also believe in it, but I want my kids to believe in it too. So I said to Mimi last year, buy a house. And so she did. She bought this semi-detached home in the west end of Ottawa. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, semi-detached property. It's quite nice. But what we liked about it was it had a walkout condition. You can sort of see at the bottom here, it has a door and a window to the basement. And what Mimi and her contractor did was they put in a 1-bedroom basement apartment. That's the living area. That's the kitchen they put in. That's the master bedroom. That's the bathroom. It has its own independent laundry. And when I talk about animating, something that we've been doing in the last a couple of years is we've been adding a lot of technology to our real estate portfolios. Every tenant in the portfolio comes in, and the day he or she moves in, they have internet, they have Wi-Fi, they have Spotify, they have Netflix, they have basic cable, they have Magic Jack phones. And this is very, very, very much appreciated by tenants because it's instant, and it's appreciated by landlords because they make a little bit of money. So Mimi is able to live in her own home with a basement apartment for $400 a month. And I said to Mimi, when you're an old lady, right? When you're an old lady, this house will be worth $700,000 or $800,000. Who knows? Maybe if it's like Toronto, it'll be $1 million. And it will produce income from that basement apartment of $1,500 or $2,000 a month. Still much more than your CPP. And that's just one unit. And Mimi said, Dad, do you think I could do more than one? I said, yes, you could do 4, you could do 5. And everybody in this audience certainly could do that. About 3 years ago, I did a little bit of research. I think it was original. And I studied the 100 richest families in Canada. And I found out that 61 out of 100, almost 2/3 of the richest families in Canada had all or substantially all of their wealth invested in real estate. I was astonished. I knew it was a big number, but I had no idea it was this big. And so I figure if it's okay for the 61 out of the 100 richest families in Canada to do this, it's probably okay for you and me. And I'll bet you this is true in Mexico, and I'll bet you it's true in Europe, and I'll bet you it's true in the United States. I bet you it's true in China. So that's what I do these days. That's kind of my reason why I do what I do. I like coaching. I do some tech coaching, startup coaching, business coaching, but mostly I'm a real estate coach. And I'm easy to find. If you put my name into Google, you will find me. I'm at Prof. Bruce on Twitter. You can find me on my personal website. You can find me at Century 21. And I want to say to Jared, where are you? Thank you so much for letting me take you all on a bit of a detour tonight. Thank you.
Awesome, fun, Dr. Bruce Firestone. Very cool. And I don't know about you, Bruce, but I'm in radio, so I can definitely live off $550 a year. Definitely. A month. A year sometimes is what it feels like, actually. So, anyway.